Is this on the Sabbath?
Doesn't say he's on the Sabbath.
Because that would have been much more dramatic, of course. You're not meant to do certain things according to the Pharisaic law.
That's right.
Was it 15,000 extra laws on top of the 613? The clincher here, the key, is verse 5. When Jesus saw their faith, I'm assuming it's the people who brought him in, but it could have been everyone else. He said unto the sick of the palsy, he said to the person, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. I can imagine the whole crowd would have gone quiet at that one.
The whole thing is quite an interesting dynamic, and it's interesting for a number of reasons. You're quite right. He said when he saw their faith. Who are we talking about? Are we talking about just the four that brought him in, or was it the four plus the paralytic? Because the paralytic may have been, get me in front of Jesus because he can do something with me. I quite like this. Jesus doesn't speak to them, but he saw their faith. The faith was clearly demonstrated. Well, I probably lean towards it. He saw the faith of the four men, which I think from a theological perspective is very interesting. He saw it demonstrated. How did he see it demonstrated? Because these dudes dragged this fella up the side of a house, ripped apart a roof, and dropped him through the crack. And I'm pretty sure the name of the stretcher that he was on is also the same name as you use for a beer for carrying a dead person. What we get by looking at the faith of his friends, he says to the man who's sick, your sins are forgiven. How does that work? It would appear that what triggered the forgiveness of sins was the faith of his friends. If that's so, what that message should say to us is it should inspire each one of us to take seriously our responsibility for praying for those that are close to us, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's workmates, because you just don't know. Jesus might well listen and look on your faith, and because Jesus in his grace and mercy may well hear you, he may then look at that individual and do business with them. That's not saying that you can get somebody else to have sins forgiven on your behalf, but it's saying that your intercession for somebody may trigger a response from Christ into the life of somebody. So praying for people is important. This is a teaser for that.
Well, it's intriguing because I'm assuming then and now there would be people who are incapable of voicing and speaking.
Of course.
It would require somebody else on their behalf. So that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
And he also calls him son. And son is the Greek word teknon, which is an affectionate term that older people would often use when speaking to those that were younger. So looking at this, the paralytic was a much younger man than Jesus, and Jesus was only 30.